I'm Eric Stackpole. It's October 13th, 2012, and now we're going to build the electronics chassis for the OpenROV kit. The electronics chassis is a little harder to build than the structure, and that's just because in the way that it's designed, the pieces don't lock together without being glued first. You have to glue them before they stay where you put them. This is actually a kind of new chassis design that is optimized for the electronics we're using. It's just got these basic parts that all fit together. I guess the easiest part, just to get your self-esteem up for gluing, is I'd recommend putting in these little blinders. These are little pieces that are there to keep the light from the LEDs that will be here from bleeding into where the lens for the camera is. And also, as the whole thing rotates in the tube, it can kind of rotate along these blinders. So you saw I just put those inside of the holes, and now I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue there and there, 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 and a few seconds later it'll be stuck. So that's step one, and this is called the camera plate. The next one is to attach these little separators for the electric speed controllers. This whole thing is going to mount kind of here, and I think the best way to do it is to actually assemble all four of these pieces together. So you can do that. The way that it works is the part just kind of fits on top. So maybe what you might do is first put these things into this other piece. Oh, actually I had it backward there, let's see. Put these into this other piece and then set them down on top of the main part of the chassis. So like that and like that. So this way it's kind of held as you glue it. The hardest part is that pieces will have a tendency to fall out as you glue them unless you put them in the right way. So start out with this. Remember again, I'm squeezing this bottle to push all the air out, so now when I hold it upside down it's sucking air in so the glue doesn't escape. And again, same thing, just a little bit of glue on the bottom in these spots. I can kind of see through the plastic and it gets darker when the glue's put there. Glue this part into place. And then once again also, I prefer to hold this up in the air rather than having it set down on a table, because the glue will sometimes go through these cracks and kind of makes a mess. If it's sitting down on a piece of paper, it'll stick to the piece of, stick to the piece of paper. Actually, I forgot to put a little bit at this interface here, so I'll do that. Cool. So again, I'm going quickly enough. I don't actually have to wait for this to dry or to harden. You know, once it's been a few seconds, it's already kind of held in place, and I can move to the next piece. So this is the larger bit that goes on the other end. You can see these two small little slits that allow those ESC separators to fit inside. That just mounts like this. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, you know, this one you can hold it if you're able to, but if it is easier, maybe you can just set it down on a piece of paper also. Just again, be careful when you have it set down like this that the glue doesn't bleed through and get paper stuck to it. And you can avoid that by just moving it after you've applied the glue. So I'm just applying a little bit there and there, there and there, and to this side. So already I'm sure that glue has leaked down onto this. So I'm moving this around. You can see these splotches where it's stuck onto the tissue paper, onto the paper towel. And so by moving it around, I'm not going to get paper towel stuck to the plastic. And actually, now that it's kind of gelled up a little bit, I should be able to pick that assembly up. Oh, see, it's already sticking to paper. Just kind of press it. Well, actually, this works too. I guess I could have done it this way too. You can kind of push it against your chest. So I'm just kind of figuring this out as I go. I'm sure you will as well. Maybe I'll apply a little bit more glue. So that's that. And here you can see that even though I didn't hold it there for very long, there's these little marks from the paper where the glue bled out and kind of started sticking to the paper, and I had to pull it off. Again, these are just aesthetic issues. Structurally, it'll be just as good, but that's that. So now that's starting to harden up. Probably the trickiest bit of this entire assembly is what we're about to do. It's attaching this, I call it the servo plate. So it's good to do this last after you've already established how this is going to be attached, because I always screw it up. It's not supposed to go on this side, it's supposed to go on that side. And the way you tell is you can see these little stubs that are going to hold the camera board. And so you just want to make sure that those are on the same side. And then to make matters more complicated, you can see that the servo is kind of a biased position. And that's because the servo hole is a biased position. That's because the servo has the horn on one side. So we want that horn to be in the center. We don't want it to be this way. We want to rotate about the horn, which is in the center of the circle. So this point is actually the center of this radius. There's a certain way to do it. Again, making sure that this tab is on the right side of the board. I could either put this this way or that way. And there's a correct way and an incorrect way. You can see there's this little hole. And that hole is intended to accept this little USB thing on the beagle bone that sticks out. So that goes here. What we want is there to be plenty of room for the Ethernet cable and power adapter to plug in, even though we actually won't be using the power adapter, at least the Ethernet cable. So the servo couldn't fit here. We need to have the servo fit on this side. And therefore, we want this hole not to be on this side, but to be on that side. So I'll take the beagle bone out for a second. The hole's on this side. And so the other tricky bit about this, once we've established the position it should go, making sure the tabs are on the right side, we're also going to have these little retaining pieces that are going to fit in like this and keep this at a 90-degree angle, even if nothing else is attached. I think the easiest way to do this is to not worry about them at first, but to just apply glue to this interface. And there's nothing that's going to hold it at a 90-degree angle. You just have to kind of eyeball that. So I'm applying glue to this. I'm getting a little bit on my fingers, which is okay. Again, it's not sticky or anything. So I'm just going to kind of let this set up for a bit. And then kind of as I'm doing that, maybe I can put this piece in to hold it. And then there's one more, which I have sitting over here. This is a part, as you can see, it could get really messy if you accidentally let it fall or drop. I mean, that's no big deal. You just kind of have to push it back. But it requires clever use of your fingers to hold things correctly. So now I've kind of got both of those on either side, and I've got them pinched, which will allow me to pick the whole thing up. And I can put some glue here, a little more there. I'm getting a little bit of glue on my fingers, but that's all right. Anytime you get glue on your fingers when you're holding the plastic, you're likely to make little fingerprints on the ROV. So I guess that just makes it uniquely yours. So, okay, we're gluing this. And now basically we just have to let the glue set up. It should only take a few seconds. This weld-on generally takes maybe about 30 seconds before it's a hard connection. Something also that I didn't do, which may have helped, you can do it if you want, is these tabs accept this, this camera board. So to kind of help hold things at a 90-degree angle, you could put the camera board on the tabs, and that'll kind of keep it from wobbling around too much.
But you don't want to glue that one on, correct?
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to glue this on. The whole point of having this is that you want to have access to where all these electronics are. And so when the camera is there, it's kind of hard to get into them, but this is a nice thing that you can take on or off. It's designed so that this edge fits right up against the inside of the tube. So even though it's loose now and it can fall off easily, once I put this in the tube, it's locked into position. It won't come off. If you really want to kind of keep things organized, let's say after you take it out of the tube, you can put little bits of wire. I've put these little holes in the tabs, which will kind of lock it into place, kind of like cotter pins. And that's why there's a little bit of extra room on this side as well, on the other side of the tabs. But you don't even need those. You can just place it on or off and it should work fine. Basically that's it. That's the electronics tube. Give me just a moment. I'll bring that tube over. You can see how it fits in. Right, so here's the tube. I've already got one end cap. You can see there's this kind of plus shape on the inside. The servo horn that fits into that is also a plus shape. And so you can see that the servo, I'll take this off to make it easier to see. The servo just kind of fits into place like this. You can screw it down, and then when you put it inside of the tube, that'll lock into place. Putting this back on to show how it slides. So that goes in like this. You can see now that it's in the tube,